Hi, Dio here, sharing more from my latest, Frank from Jersey, the newest book from Trash Panda Press. Last time we went over the preface, and again, if you missed that, the recap is it's a novel, it's a work of fiction, and it imagines the story of Saint Francis of Assisi, who we often think of as this very gentle, tame person who's very benevolent and loves animals and, rejected wealth. And I kind of imagine that if someone has the courage to reject wealth and kind of go off and live with animals and people that society kind of rejects, you're probably not a timid person. And so this book was me sort of reimagining St. Francis of Assisi in modern day times in New Jersey, and what he might have been like and how we as a society would have treated him if that were the case. So I'll get into chapter 1, but I do want to give a couple of content warnings. So you may not know this, but the St. Francis figure, before he became this like pious image of this animal loving person who lives in the woods, he he was from a wealthy family, and he loved to indulge in, the story goes, he loved to indulge in a lot of hedonistic things. So in modernizing him, I'm just going to be blunt, he's an asshole. He has a character arc, but he's an asshole. And so some of the things that you hear in this chapter might be offensive to some folks. Nothing violent or graphic, but just, he's not a likable person. He's, really superficial. He's misogynistic. He's degrading to women. Because because he grows up a privileged, young, white, at this point he's still a boy, but 17, on the verge of 18-year-old, in modern U.S. society, and so somebody with money and status and privilege, he's not going to be a nice person. So just so that you're not like shocked by that. So part 1, Fortunate Son. Chapter 1, Spring 2022, Francesco. The highway ahead is dark and glossy from the steady rainfall. Francesco doesn't see the flashing lights. Both hands gripping the wheel, he didn't mean to stay out this late. All he can think about is Bella, at home, waiting for him. I was about to bang Mila, Jonathan uses his sarcastic voice as he jokingly punches Francesco's shoulder. He hasn't stopped fidgeting in the passenger seat. For what it's worth, I banged her last week, you're not missing anything. Jonathan runs a hand down his face, shaking his head. I can't believe you're making us leave early so you can feed your damn dog, he whines. Talk about Bella like that again, and I'll punch you. But Francesco won't, and they both know it. Jonathan cracks the window and throws a cigarette butt out into the rain as Francesco leans his foot harder on the gas. Almost home. Hey, slow down, it's pouring out, Jonathan chastises as he scrolls through his phone, still sulking. Francesco ignores him. After a moment of silence, Jonathan changes the subject. Hey, let me get one of your pills. Fuck off, I need to sell those. Even if Francesco wanted to share, the last thing Jonathan needs is Adderall. You don't need to sell shit. Your dad always has your ass covered. It's then that Francesco hears the sirens and sees the flashing lights. Shit, I told you to slow down! Jonathan checks his pockets and looks around, frantic. They're not pulling me over, Francesco says as the police car in the rearview mirror closes in behind him. The fuck they aren't! Just fucking calm down. Francesco pulls the car to the shoulder of the road. It's wide, but there's no lighting. The fucking pills and the weed, Francesco. Tell them it's yours, Kay? Tell them the truth. Shut up. Francesco's heart races as the police car pulls up behind him. I'll lose my scholarship. My dad can't bail me out. I said shut up. Damn it, think about someone other than yourself for once, please. Shut up. Fine, relax. Just be quiet. Francesco lowers his voice to a hiss. A beam of light shines through the rain. It sends pain shooting through his eyes, and for a moment he can only see tracers of the piercing light. Fuck my life. Francesco rolls down the window, and cold, damp air fills the car. He can barely see the hairy arm floating behind the beam of light. Francesco turns his face away from the sharp light circling the car. It reminds him of the stage lights at an opera he saw with his parents years ago. The beams formed a figure 8 on ruby curtains. It had been amusing then. Know why I pulled you over? A deep voice inquires. He wants to tell the cop to fuck off, to ask to see his badge, to threaten to call his father's lawyer. Instead, he says, was I speeding? I need to get home to feed my dog. Lost track of time. You been drinking? No, I'm only in high school, sir. I need to see your license and registration. As Francesco reaches across Jonathan's bulky legs to dig through the glove box, his friend tries to whisper, my scholarship, my fucking scholarship. But Francesco opens the glove box hard and it slams into Jonathan's knees. Ah, damn it! His friend grips his leg, rubbing his knee with both hands. Francesco grabs his wrinkled registration papers and then digs his license out of his back pocket. He hands both out the window to the cop. The flashlight is no longer aimed in his face. The cop looks pissed. His square chin is dotted with a dimple, his jaw set in a stern look that passes for anger. He looks Francesco up and down, then turns his attention to the documents. Francesco thinks he looks like a cartoon cop, as if his exceptionally square jaw and prominent dimpled chin had fated him to a life in law enforcement, like Buzz Lightyear, or the guy from the show his parents watched, Dudley Do-Right. Jonathan starts to jitter. His foot taps the floor repeatedly. Francesco wants to smack his arm and tell him to chill the fuck out, but he sits still instead. A shadow passes over the steering wheel. Francesco turns to see the cop, Officer Dimples, leaning both hairy forearms on the door of the car, peering his head close enough to the window that it's almost inside the car. He's wearing cheap aftershave, the stuff the guys that go to public school wear. Bernardoni? The cop begins. You a relation to Pat Bernardoni? The cop's eyes are now interested. His face has lost the edge. Francesco is used to this reaction. Yes, sir, he's my dad. A grin spreads across the cop's face, too far above his dimpled, square chin. Francesco thinks he's about to let them go when the man's eyes fix on Jonathan. His expression changes. Francesco doesn't want to turn, doesn't want to see, and he doesn't need to. Hey, what you got there? What's he doing? The cop doesn't wait for an answer. Out of the car, both of you, now! Couldn't just leave it alone. Jonathan's eyes are bloodshot. When he stands up, the baggie of pills he had been trying to hide is now in plain sight. What the fuck? You brought pills into my dad's car? Francesco doesn't hear himself say this until the words are already out, echoing farther in the darkness than he intended. Jonathan stands across from him, his face a mix of fear and betrayal. He looks like I just kicked his mom. His friend tries to speak but can't. Officer Dimples calls for backup. The last thing he hears Jonathan say before two cops put his friend in the back seat of a patrol car is, my scholarship! So that is chapter 1, and as you can see, Frank is not a nice person at this point. So this is Frank from Jersey, from Trash Panda Press, available anywhere books are sold, but please support independent bookstores. Indiebound.org is a great way to do that. It's online. You can order it to have it delivered to whatever your closest local independent bookstore might be. Thanks again, and see you next time.